boom, we just clicked record again as far as we know. And we're moving along. I need to actually throw this into AI. So we're going to be doing finding balance, the importance of pausing and pivoting in tech, not text. Let's see what this, see, let's see. Here. It's thinking absolutely. So I see how this one goes. And we can just dive right back in. Not a lot of preamble. Sorry, guys. We got stuff to do. Three, two. Well, hello and welcome back. We are developing our podcast. We're building better developers. We are here to help you with AI this time around, where we were using some episode topics from 2 seasons back, and we were throwing it at AI, and we're seeing what it spits out and discussing that and having some really good discussion. It's like having a guest on every single episode talking about prior episodes. And this guest is very kind and effusive in its praise, as we will talk about as we get there. But first, I have to talk about myself because that's what good branding and marketing apparently is. My name is Rob Broadhead. I happen to be one of the founders of Developing, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we are a consulting company that helps you wrangle your technology. You got that technology sprawl, that technology drunk drawer that needs to be cleaned up, or you're trying to figure out, what does your technology stack look like? You don't even know what a stack is. Maybe you're starting your business or you're making a pivot and you're like, okay, I need to figure out how to use technology how to leverage that to do this better. That's why we're here. We'll sit down, we'll talk to you, walk through what your business plans are, where you are, where you're at, what kind of industry you're in, all that kind of goodness. And then we will help you craft actually, we'll craft for you probably a technology roadmap, and we can even help you implement it as needed, whether it's through simplification, integration, automation, even innovation. You got something that's like, this thing is going to, win the world, is better than sliced bread. We can help you build that. Check us out at rb-sns.com. We got plenty of stuff there and plenty more coming. Good thing, bad thing. Continuing in the I'm in a remote digital nomad, road warrior kind of phase here and stuff like that. Good thing is I'm able to work anywhere. I was able to sit down the other day, just like grabbed a local Panera, sat down, spent several hours, got a lot done because I just had headphones on, was able to focus. Bad thing about some of these places is that the power structures that they have are not quite enough to charge a higher end laptop such as I have. So sometimes you're going to end up there and you're plugged in for hours and yet your battery is still slowly draining to a slow death. So keep an eye on that, such things, and make sure you've got like some rechargeables and stuff like that. And especially if you're going to go out and do something, you're going to be out for the day or something, wherever you can, make sure all your devices get all charged up to 100% if possible, so that you're ready for that day away from a good power source. But right now, you don't have to worry about being charged up because he's going to do it for you. Michael, introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Meloche. I'm one of the co-founders of Developer, Building Better Developers. I'm also the owner of Envision QA, where we help startups and growing companies launch better products faster. That means fewer bugs, smoother customer experiences, and less wasted time and money. We take care of the behind-the-scenes quality of work so teams can focus on building and scaling. Learn more at envisionqa.com, envisionqa.com. Good thing, bad things. Good thing, been cranking on some work lately, just going heads down, getting a lot of stuff done. The get it done approach, doing well. Bad thing, I just have not had a lot of time for anything else lately. So I'm just looking forward to the holidays coming up and just going to take some time and get a little R&R.
The holidays. See, people talk about holidays. I'm going to sidetrack this a little bit. And it's like, 4th of July to me is not like holidays. It's a 3-day weekend. Yes, it is an opportunity to get yourself like a little bit back on track, but it's not like, I'm not going to be able to get that far. Maybe it's because me, I'm going to be just like, I'm still like scrambling to just do catch up, of any sort, much less get some of the things done that I want to get done. However, right now, I do want to get back on track. This time around, The episode that we threw into ChatGPT is finding balance, the importance of pausing and pivoting in tech. And so we asked ChatGPT, and it said, absolutely, here's a tailored podcast episode outline for it. Subtitle it gave us is avoiding burnout and building better developers through strategic stops, which sounds pretty good. It gave me a prompt, a post prompt slash opening. So let's talk through this one real quick. Welcome to the Developer Podcast, where we don't just build better software, we build better developers. Today's episode explores something that doesn't get enough attention in the fast-paced world of tech: when to pause and when to pivot. Tech moves fast, but moving fast in the wrong direction just gets you lost quicker. Whether you're stuck in a job, a project, or even a mindset, sometimes the smartest move isn't to power through, but to pause. Wow, that's actually a really good little intro there, a little bit of that white space thing. Segment one, the myth of constant hustle. Oh, I'm already pumped about this one. Key talking points. The always grinding culture is glorified in tech, but it's often unhealthy. Burnout isn't just emotional, it leads to bugs, bad decisions, and missed opportunities. Signs that you might need pause: irritability, tunnel vision, declining quality in code or communication. Productivity isn't about motion, it's about momentum in the right direction. Ah, my favorite word, momentum in the right direction, even if it's a little bit incremental, small steps. I I cannot say enough about that. This is like in itself is exactly like in a nutshell one of the things that I wish more of us would embrace, that I have found actually the key to life, the secret to happy life or whatever is some of this kind of piece. In particular, that always grinding, always working late, all that kind of stuff. And this isn't work life balance. That's actually a different thing. We have a limit to what we can do. What we do as developers in particular, and even if you're in a design mode or anything like that, is taxing. It is an artistic as well as a thought and a scientific pursuit. And most of you know this if you've ever like taken that pause when you get to the end of a day, the end of especially the end of like a long coding session where you're just like, I need to, unplug for a minute. I need to take a walk or something like that. And we don't often because there's that thing ahead of us like, hey, if I sit down and do this for another 30 minutes, I can solve another problem. I can get something else checked off my list. I can add another feature, things like that. We need to keep in mind that when we go into that next phase, that we probably are not going to be, yeah, it may be very fun, it may be very rewarding, but we're probably not going to be as good doing it as we were the first time around. It's just like if you go play a sport, let's say you're a basketball player, you go play a game and you win and it's great, and now you can go play another game. Well, great, but you're not going to be as fresh as you were for the first one, and so on. Now, maybe you're young and you can do a bunch of those, but there's going to be limits to that. I think that there is too much. Um, I think this is where I struggle as a consultant. Actually, as I'll get a little bit into the weeds, is that we often set things up to bill by the hour. The working hour that we do is how we get paid. We're trading time for money, and that really is not a good model for software development because it's really not about time as much as it should be about features and things like that. Now, that does not mean I'm a fan of fixed price, bids and things like that. However, if you do it right, there are ways to do it. I've seen sprint-based models where people are just paid X amount per sprint, and every sprint you go through, here's the cost, and then you move forward. That's actually seems to be a pretty good approach because it's like, yes, it's fixed, but it's in a fixed mode that sort of works for both sides. If you want to go another round and add more features, great, but you also get to like tweak stuff each sprint along the way. That is why we need to focus on what did we accomplish as opposed to, hey, I had to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning to get that thing done. And honestly, if you find yourself in a point where you feel like you're going to have to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, don't. You're going to be far better off. Get some decent sleep, step away, go do something else. Because it is amazing how often we've talked about like the Pomodoros and stuff like that. That little bit of focus time and then walking away and then coming back is so much more valuable than just like plowing through it. Those are some thoughts I have. How about yourself, Michael?
Yeah, so those are all great ideas and talking points, especially, if you find yourself working late into the evening. But the problem is, and you've run into this as much as I have, we have deadlines. We have to get code done. There is a finite amount of time in most projects and budgets for getting things done. And you do want to constantly keep moving the ball forward. But the problem is, unless you're doing one project or working for one company, a lot of us have side hustles or businesses that we're trying to run. And typically you'll have more than one customer, and you're going to have to juggle, unfortunately, between the two and keep things moving. So sometimes you do fall into that pitfall where you are at 60, 70, 80 hours a week. But the problem is you need to take the break, but you're going to get pushback from your team, your boss, your manager, if you do. So you have to find that balance. It's not always going to be easy, and there's going to be times where you either need to go find another job, another line of business, or another customer. That's, when we talk about, maybe it's time to fire that customer, free up your time, eliminate the time wasters or quote unquote the stressors that are costing you money because they're eating up your time. Other things, finding balance and, the declining productivity, that's probably the biggest one. I like your idea. You get done, it's late, maybe you can knock out one more thing. I find the flip side of that. Sometimes it's better to knock out a bunch of small things than try to knock out the one big thing. But it's like eating the frog, like you talk about from time to time. Sometimes it's better to take that big thing, do it first. Yes, it may be a slog at the beginning, but then maybe that means you can take a smaller, a longer break and take on a few smaller tasks for a while to kind of give you that little pause and mentality between tasks. Thoughts on that?
Um, Definitely, I do want to step back first to the idea of, if you have a lot of projects and you're doing a lot of stuff, and it's just sometimes you need to, you're spread too thin to be able to touch all the projects in the way you need to. Now, in that case, you need to either say no to projects. As Michael said, you could also maybe fire a customer or two if they're sucking up too much of your time. You can also farm it out, go hire other people, things like that, scale up yourself. If you're constantly, which, and honestly, this is a part I work with a lot, is I get my schedule to a point where I'm constantly working more than I really want to do, and realize that I could do this for a while. Then it's like, okay, now it's good time to bring somebody else on, whether it's bring somebody else as a contractor or maybe even as an employee, that I can bring them on and say, okay, now we can handle this bigger workload. There are obviously challenges involved in that, but somewhere along the way, it's like, if you are spread too thin, you have to recognize that you're spread too thin and figure out where you need to make some changes. And sometimes it includes, walking away. As far as whether it's a small task or a big task, I think it is very important to find your rhythm and what you are comfortable with. You're probably not comfortable with 16 hours a day. I'm just going to tell you that most people are like, I love to do, I can do 14 hours of coding a day every day, and I'm awesome about it. You're probably not. That's, what Bill Gates used to, like, when he got married the first time. I remember them saying, or I guess it's the only time, um, he cut them back to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. That was what the married life changed for him. And we've seen how many bugs and issues Windows has had. Maybe there's a link there. Don't want to show shade, but and I think all of us have been there, where we know that project, everybody was not sleeping the last week and it got out the door, but there are bugs and there are mistakes, and yeah, we get yelled at for them or whatever. But it's one of those things. It's like, you've got to figure out where to push that back, and where to stand your ground, and where to understand what your limits are. Moving along, pausing with purpose, the power of stepping back. How pauses can provide clarity, revisiting while you're working on a feature at all, checking if you're still aligned with the problem you're solving, looking at the bigger picture, architecture, user needs, team dynamics. Pausing equals recharging plus reevaluating. Micro pauses, Pomodoro breaks, stepping away from a screen. Macro pauses, sabbaticals, time off, or stepping back from a toxic environment. Um, there's a lot here. So first off, with your pauses, where it talks about revisiting what you're working on, and why are you working on it, particularly if you're beating your head against the wall. If you've got something where you're like, this solution is just not working, I'm struggling with this bug, or this thing's not coming out right, I highly recommend, when you get in those situations where you're starting to get that feel of like, I'm just beating my head against the wall, before you knock yourself out from beating your head against the wall, step back and think through, like, go back to like the drawing board a little bit and say, okay, well, what am I trying to do? How do I get there? Try to like divorce yourself from your current solution and just sort of like walk through again. Give yourself as best you can a second set of eyes. And this is great to do when you're not looking at it, is to just walk away and essentially like redesign the solution you're trying to figure through again, because there's a lot of times that that will help you find a path that you didn't do earlier, a possibility that you haven't tried, or maybe you look at it and go, "Why am I? This doesn't make any sense at all. I shouldn't be doing this. This does not. This is not a feature that adds anything. How did I get here? I don't know, but I get to stop." Things like that. Um, the other thing is the whole macro pauses. I think that we too often do not take a take a day, and actually more than a day, like take a weekend or a long weekend and get away from stuff. I think it is very helpful. I say this as somebody that will like start twitching and stuff like that as I get away from some of these things, but they are also very helpful. It is good to like go and not open your electronic devices for a couple of days. Go put your set your phone somewhere that you don't even remember where it is. um, Shut down, get away from email, some things like that. Just go for a walk, go for, I really think the idea of like sabbaticals and stuff like that. Go spend a day at the lake or at a pool or reading a book or doing whatever you do, doing your hobby, working in the yard, maybe a couple of days of that. It is amazing how much that stuff will re-energize you. It gives you an opportunity to get out of your mental rut. Sometimes you'll solve some problems while you're doing it. And if you're like me, you're almost always going to be itching to just like get back to work. And it like gives you a little more motivation when you come back, sort of a morale booster in itself. How about yourself, Michael?
Yeah, so I'll touch on two things here. So the first, pausing with purpose, those micro breaks. If you're using code repositories, commit your code, walk away. Come back and do a self code review of what you just did versus your problem. Or if you find yourself and you're thinking you're going down the rabbit hole, stop, walk away, take a break, come back, and just start over with the problem. Ask yourself, what is the why? What am I trying to do? What am I trying to accomplish? Then go back and look at the code. Sometimes just reviewing the problem, resetting the problem, and revisiting that why will help get you back on track and hopefully reset you enough to say, okay, this is what I need to be doing. The macro, I'm horrible at this. Just talked recently, last episode, about my wedding anniversary. The day before that, I literally was pacing because I was afraid of being away from my computer, things on fire, things of that nature. That is a bad sign. That is a sign that you need those macro breaks. Take them, but don't take them and just literally sit in front of another screen. Don't go from a computer screen to a TV screen for 12 hours. Take a break from technology. You have to kind of get away from the same, I guess, set of tools and things that basically got you there in the first place. Get away from the screens, rest your eyes, go for a walk, read a book, go watch a movie. Movies are not blue screen. They are big projectors. You might get some good popcorn out of it, might have bad popcorn, but the biggest thing I like about going to a movie theater is it's 2.5 hours. You have to silence your phone or you're going to get yelled at, popcorn thrown at you. So basically, because of the social norms, you should turn off your phone. You should be taking that break for 2.5 hours, or better yet, go to a high-end restaurant and talk on your phone. You're going to get thrown out. That's another way to kind of reconnect with the people around you.
Yeah, I think those are all great suggestions, and I think with that, I'm not going to have nothing to add. So let's move on to the next one. Segment three, they suggest, would be pivoting, knowing when it's time to shift. Key talking points: pivots aren't failure; they're strategic redirection. Personal pivots: changing roles, specialties, or work styles. Project pivots: killing a feature, switching tech stacks, redefining success criteria. Ask: is this still serving the goal or just the sunk costs? In tech, your willingness to adapt often matters more than your original plan. That's a really good quote. I think the sunk cost fallacy is one of the biggest challenges that we have in technology. There is definitely, it is real. There is definitely a cost, a loss, maybe moving from one solution to another, from one platform to another. But there are ways sometimes to regain that. Now, I think for ourselves, I think changing roles. I think we, as depending on where we're at, changing technology is huge. It is very, to me at least, it is much more fulfilling to. It's a reset to go launch into a new technology or even a new line of business or a new application that we haven't dealt with before, an area that we haven't maybe worked with. Um, Similarly, our roles. It's worth it anyways. Early on, you should be trying to get as many different roles as you can. Whether you're early on, it's going to be hard to get like a lead or a mentor kind of role. But as you get, even a few years in, you can find like senior and lead roles that you can be a part of, even if it's in just your little pond of technology that you're working in. Definitely look at some of the things out there if you've got an opportunity to talk to maybe like a manager or project managers, the architects, things like that, your build team, your CI/CD people, configuration management, all those people, testing, yes, even QA, and the different areas, front end, back end, middle tier, your graphic designers, all that kind of stuff is figure out some of these things, talk to people, get yourself, at least if you're not in that role, in that job, to help you shift that mindset a little bit. I think is very helpful to not only solve your problems, but also to regenerate and get yourself away from that thing that is draining you a little bit too much. We talk so often about doing regular, probably twice a year. Particularly, we talk about it at the beginning and the end, or at the end of a year, and then also a lot of times around mid-year, is the whole like reviewing what you're doing. Where are we at? Is my schedule something that I should change? Is my work style? I think this is something that I have benefited from greatly over the years, is adjusting style and that is everywhere from where you work to how you work to when you work, to who you work with, to what kind of lighting do you have? What kind of machines do you have? Do you work on a laptop? Do you work on a desktop? Do you have a big screen, a little screen, multiple screens? All of those things are useful to make you better where you're at. It helps you figure out where are you comfortable, what works best for you, and also honestly helps you when you're thrown into a situation that's maybe not ideal. At least you've been there before and you're prepared for it. So it's things like, hey, I'm going to be on a train trip for the next 3 days, but I still have to get work done. Okay, I know that these certain devices and chargers and stuff like that I need because I'm not going to be able to get work done otherwise. There's a lot in this one. So, what are some of your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, so one of the the funny thing is when I hear pivot, the first thing that comes to my mind is multitasking. And when we try to do jobs, we are constantly having to pivot, change focus to get things done. And a lot of people are like, oh, good, I'm good at multitasking. That's not the type of pivot we're talking about here. The type of pivot we want to talk about is I'm doing this challenge, I'm stuck on this, I need to get away from this. I need to pivot to something else to clear my head, to take a break. The Pomodoro technique is great for this. Things like this are the types of pivots you want, are the pivots to take your mind off what it is that you're stuck on or the problem that you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a bad customer, try to get them off the phone, take a short break, come back and maybe revisit the problem the next day, or say, hey, let's pick this back up in a little bit. Let's, walk away. Let me look into this some more. Try to diffuse the situation, not increase the stress or the temperament of the current problem that you're dealing with. Take a break, pivot, look for something else to do, to kind of reset your mindset and keep things moving.
It does all boil down to the old question we often say: ask yourself, are you being busy or are you being productive? Because you can sit there and you can bang your head against stuff all day long. And a lot of times you're going to end up actually in a far better situation by taking a break, step away from it, come back to it, as opposed to trying to power your way through it. In particular, like now when we have remote work and stuff like that, it's very easy to go do things very useful. Like you can go change the load of laundry, do some dishes, mow your yard, whatever it is. There's other things you can do to detach and get away for a little bit and then come back and be productive. That will wrap this one up. We're running into it from our time. We don't want to go too long. So as always, shoot us an email, info@developaneur.com. Check us out on Facebook at Developaneur. You can hit us up on X at Developaneur. Obviously, the developer, well, not obviously, I guess if you're listening to this, but if you're watching this, the Developaneur channel out on YouTube. If you're watching this, you could also listen to this on podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. We are there. As always, appreciate your time. We are not done. We've got plenty of With AI episodes ahead of us. Go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. Bonus material from you.
So, finding balance, one of the biggest things you can do here is make a list, prioritize your day, and stick to your calendar. It don't once in a while it may be fine, but don't get in the habit of always saying, yes, I can do more. Try to stick within a 8-hour work window, hell, even at 1 hour work window. Break it down to say, okay, I'm going to work for 15 minutes. I'm going to take a 15-minute break. Do something to break it up, to change your habits and get into a better structure of where you feel more relaxed, you have a better work-life balance, and you start to enjoy what you're doing again. Even if you do enjoy it, you may find that this little break, you might find other things to enjoy, or you might find taking the break makes you come back to this. Even you get even happier. It makes you excited again. It recharges you to go back to doing what you were doing.
Yeah, I think the value of like the Pomodoros and stuff like that is the time boxing, is getting yourself something to say, okay, I'm going to work for X amount and then I'm going to stop, so that we're not working to finish the problem as much as we're working to like, let's make some progress, let's try to get it done, and then let's move on to something else. For the other bonus, I'm going to go ahead and give the final talking points and some balance tools for devs that it suggests. You don't have to say yes to every opportunity or fire. Balance is discipline. Know your limits and priorities. Use intentional pauses and thoughtful pivots to stay aligned with your values and your goals. Balance tools: weekly journaling or stand down sessions, asynchronous communication over constant meetings, environment cues, set up workspaces for focus versus ideation. Uh, just real briefly, I'm going to throw a couple of things on top of those. I think any time that you do some sort of journaling, or even just like checking your lists, particularly if you start with one day at the beginning of the day and how did you get there at the end of the day, keeping up with that over the period of several days, weeks, and things like that. It's just like anything else, is we're going to see patterns, and we're going to see where maybe we can make some adjustments, that we are overloading ourselves, or we're doing too much of something at a certain time. Switch it up. Even if you've got multiple projects, one of the things I've found is that it is very helpful for me to, like maybe if I'm going to work on one project first thing in the day and then another thing at the end of the day, then maybe a couple days later I'm going to switch it, so that the one that I was going to do at the end, I do at the beginning. There's some things like that, and it does allow us to figure out if you don't know, where is your most productive time period, and how do you maybe line some of those projects up so that the transition works to your advantage. Asynchronous communication over constant meetings. I love it. I'm a huge fan of asynchronous communication. I love using like a Slack, emails, things like that. I am not a fan of scheduling meetings. Even stand-ups, my team for the longest time, we did Slack stand-ups. I had a big block of time and said, I just need you to make sure you get your information there. We'll have some feedback. And it's really helped. Granted, my team is time diverse. We have all kinds of different hours that they're working, but it allows that to happen. And it allows us to tackle the things we need to tackle it. Yes, it does allow the opportunity sometimes for things to fall beneath the cracks, but that's a discipline and a habit, is making sure that we are checking all the places that we need to check to make sure that we get our things done. That being said, I'm ready to wrap this one. Oh, last thing, I do want to talk about environment cues real quick. There is definitely, for me and maybe for you, there's a difference on where I work as far as what I am productive doing. There's a very big difference if I want to sit down and write code versus if I need to sit down and design something or gather requirements, versus if I'm doing documentation, versus just blue sky and greenfield type stuff. So maybe like yourself, that's, if you're the same way, then try different places and styles of working to see what works best for you. You'd be amazed at the difference it can make in your productivity just by maybe sitting on a chair across the room as opposed to the one that you're in right now. We are going to go sit on different chairs. Maybe, maybe not, but we will be in a different place. I at least definitely will be in a different place next time around. We will wrap this one up. Appreciate your time. As always, all the places that you can reach out to us, do so. Leave us comments, leave us feedback. We'd love to hear it. And we will talk to you next time.